Researchers and Rachel Ray agree. There's one diet out there that works to make you more healthy while reducing your waste. Seems like a win-win, right? We're talking about the Mediterranean diet today. We're breaking it down, going over the science and psychology that makes so many so skinny eating this way. We're talking about eating satisfying foods to melt off your belly fat, fat off your thighs, your hips, and lower risk of heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes while eating satisfying foods. So let's dig in. Factor one, stone soup, right? No, it's not actually about eating soup. With the Mediterranean diet and other fad diets, the effects are a little bit unclear. You see, eating more plants and eating less processed foods is always a good idea. And it's due to something called calorie density. So, most folks are familiar with the total amount of calories in food, but what about calories per unit of space? For example, all of these foods have the same amount of calories, but they're not all equally satisfying. Your stomach senses fullness largely based on stretch receptors. So, eating water, fiber, and nutrients fills up your stomach without flooding your body with excess calories, making it a lot easier to eat to satiety without gaining fat. So, how are you adding in more veggies to your life? You can use my Ninja Veggie hack that I talk a lot about in the Skinny Kitchen. And what this is really about hiding vegetables in your food. The easiest way to do this is to put vegetables on top of something. So you could put broccoli on top of a pizza or put spinach in a sandwich. You could blend greens into a smoothie. You could blend it into a dip, which is actually interesting, adding things like kale to hummus or another type of dip. And what it comes down to at the end of the day is swapping the calorically dense for the calorically dilute. So if you're having a pizza, you can switch out what I've done in the past. I've switched out cheese for a bean paste. So I'm getting less total calories, but more nutrition and more actual food. It allows you to eat more without gaining more fat. Factor number two is going to be the number one law of food. You cannot eat everything all the time. One food is always going to replace another. So, if you're having a sumptuous dinner of grilled lamb, salad, and a baked potato, you won't be eating bologna, iceberg lettuce, and french fries. This is also what makes the Mediterranean diet seem healthier. When compared to the standard American diet, the Mediterranean diet performs better, but it's still not the best. What it comes down to is starting where you're at. You see, all you have to do to lose fat without losing your mind is swap out your bad nutritional habits for good ones. For me and the private coaching clients I have in Double Z Elite, this can be swapping out Haagen-Dazs for coconut-based ice cream and then swapping that out for homemade banana ice cream. It's about starting where you're at and progressively going to healthier and healthier levels. So, what's the one or two foods you're eating throughout the week that either trigger you to overeat or take away from your health? I want you to pause the video right now and write down two possible alternative foods you could swap in. Got it? Awesome. Brings us to factor number three, letting the cows out to pasture. So, if you're a farmer or kind of a nerd like I am, you likely know this. When you're raising cattle, you need to fence in a wide field. With a small area, the cattle, they freak out. They break down the fence and go wild, like in this picture. And the same thing happens to you. With other diets that restrict your food, your brain freaks out. It wants to burst through those barriers and do something like take two pizzas and cook a bunch of burgers between them into a giant pizza burger sandwich. This tastes awesome, by the way. Anyway, the Mediterranean diet is successful because it defines what you can eat and not what you can't eat. So think of all the foods that you can have right now to give your diet more flavor and more variety, instead of thinking of all the things that you can't eat. Like veganism is defined by not eating meat or animal products. Being gluten-free is defined by not eating gluten, grains, things like that. Being, ketogenic is defined by not eating a significant amount of carbohydrates. But what can you eat? For example, when was the last time you had sardines, jackfruit, or even potato starch? I highly recommend looking at one new food every single week and trying to cook with it. Personally, I recently picked up a few random squashes to roast off and enjoy. That was this week's breakdown of the Mediterranean diet. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button below and subscribe to see when I come out with my new fat loss breakdowns. And now, what if you had the flexibility to eat foods that satisfy you, fill you up, but also burn fat faster? I recently put together the Skinny Kitchen video series for you for free. You'll find that in the link in the bio below. Now, let's recap. We covered the stone soup effect, that fad diets tend to work by getting you to eat more fruits, vegetables, and less of the calorically dense foods, which brings us to the idea of calorie density, where certain foods pack in more calories for a certain size, making it very easy to overeat and gain fat if you indulge in them all the time. We also have the number one law of food that says when you eat one food, there's always an opportunity cost. So you cannot eat all the food all the time. By eating more fruits, vegetables, foods that have more nutrients, vitamins, and water, you'll end up naturally eating less processed, calorie rich foods. We also talked about starting where you're at so that you don't have to go from, let's say, eating McDonald's all the way to having a bowl of oatmeal or a big salad. You can progress from where you're at to where you want to be step by step. And to do this, it's all about letting the cows out to pasture. So you don't want to restrict yourself with your food choices. You actually want to open yourself up to more options, which makes it easier from a psychological point of view to stick with healthy eating to lose fat and not your mind. So I love making these breakdowns for you. I've already started on the next one. Let me know which one you want to see after. I am Zach Zeller, America's Practical Nutrition Coach, and you are stunning.